who's now Pat Setzer. We still hang out together. We've hung out together forever. Every year we make trips. We go to the farm. Larry Lynch has a farm in Georgia. We go up there. We've traveled together.
So three of you?
No, well, there's more than that. There's Bob Hawkins, Larry Lynch, Richard Huster. Richard lived on Challen. We had Larry Lynch, Rex Setzer, and Bob Hawkins lived over on. I think he lived in the neighborhood, but I'm not sure exactly where he was. Huster lived across the street on Challen, across from where we live now.
All 4 or 5 of you all got married about the
same time? Yes, sir. Except for Hawkins, he was already married. But all the rest of us got married about the same time. And we've been very close ever since. We traveled together. We still travel together. How I manage, I don't know, but I still go with him somehow. Well,
now, how did you meet your wife, Betsy?
Betsy, I met Betsy through a friend of mine. I'm trying to think of the gal's name. Something escapes me. But she was a good friend, and I was never good at calling people up and making dates. I really was somewhat bashful, I suppose, in that respect. But that's the way it worked. I would call them up on the day of the occasion and ask them if they'd want to go somewhere. And I think I had some tickets to either Ferrante and Tasha or Roger Williams or whatever it was. And I called her up and asked her if she would like to go. And she said, and she was a nice girl at that time. I mean, she still is. In fact, she still stays at our house now when she comes into town with her husband.
Now, who is this?
Sandra Craig. Sandra Craig. She was Sandra McGregor. Sandra McGregor. Her father was manager of Cohen's, and I believe that's true. Sandra McGregor. And I asked Sandra. She said, "Well, I'm sorry to say on this particular evening I have a date." And the reason I called Sandra is because I found out that she was one individual who, if you called her up on the day of the occasion, she didn't have a problem in telling you she didn't have a date. Some of these other nice girls, you'd call them up and then on the day of the occasion, and if they didn't have a date, they wouldn't tell you. They wouldn't admit it. They would all say, "Well, I'm busy, I'm sorry," and they may be not really going anywhere, but they didn't want to admit to the fact that no one had called them up for an appointment that particular evening. But that didn't bother Sandra. But Sandra said, "I have a friend who might be interested in going out this evening if you would let me call her." So she gave her a phone call, and then she told me to call her, and the lady I was put in touch with was Betsy Dent. And she and I went to a function, and that evening that was pretty much it. It was in the trail there. And then I think I had a phone call maybe a week or two, maybe it was a week later. And Betsy Dent called me and said she had an extra ticket to go to a Florida football game, that her father had the ticket, actually she didn't, and wanted to know if I wanted to use the ticket. Well, obviously having been associated with football and playing football at Marshall University, I decided I'd like to go down and watch the Florida Gators play a football game. And so I went with them, and then later we went to I think it was Barnett Park, or it was the part where we watched the 4-H people.
So what year was this?
Well, it was probably and he does a very good job. He also teaches here when he comes back to the States at the used to be FCCJ. It's now the Florida State College at Jacksonville. I think that's what it's called. But that's the situation there.
Well, you've lived in your house on Challen how long?
Forever. When we had an apartment over on Ingleside, and this little house came up for sale, a little bungalow. It used to belong to Mrs. Culp, who was the dean of women at Lee High School. And Betsy saw the house was for sale, and she said, "You know, I think I'd like to live over in that little house, live in that neighborhood, or what have you." So anyway, we bought the house, and we lived there ever since. I always thought it was going to be a starter house, but unfortunately, we had to put children through college, and the three of them, they went through, I think they've attended Bowles and Episcopal and Bartram and Lee High School and Randolph-Macon, Emory, and Florida State. So we've become individuals who supported all those schools, and that kept me from moving to another house.
And you got the canceled checks to prove it too.
Well, I know the checks are all gone, but there's no bills.
About 1970, I believe you were the head of legal aid at that time. Is that correct?
When you and I met, I am not sure where I was. I don't know that I was with legal aid. I practiced law, did work for Watts, then I went into the Lynch building and worked for myself for a short time. Then legal aid started out, and Joe Duslack, who's a very dear friend of mine, and I and a few other people decided to go with legal aid because we thought we could get a better income.
What year was that, Hunter?
I don't know when it started, honestly do not. But we were in there with Yardley Buckman. We were some of the first ones to start. And I stayed with them for about 6 years, but I think I met you before that time because I was in the mortgage foreclosure business as you were, I believe, or you were. I was going to.
No, actually, I had gone to work with the Barnett Bank.
I knew you had.
Head of statewide collection corporation.
That's correct.
As a lawyer.
Right.
To sue people that didn't pay their credit
right.
cards or their cars.
But okay, but.
That was
right.
about one of the first jobs I had because I graduated from law school in about January '68.
Well then, okay, so it was 8 years later.
Right.
I'm not sure. I remember meeting you for sure, and we had a few cases together. Maybe they were legal aid cases. It might have been. I'm not certain. You know, George, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't have good records on all of that in my mind, but I do remember we used to go to the courthouse together, and then after that time, I left legal aid. I became the real estate division chief for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, City of Jacksonville, and we condemned we were in the process of condemning the land between. Basically between Union Street and 8th Street. And I wrote we cleared that land out, and then I wrote the specifications for the sale and the development of the property, which is now Shands, but it was, at that time it was Methodist Hospital. Marcus Druitt was out there. And we bought all that property except one house, and that was Mr. Moman's house. He worked for the post office department. He came down and said we didn't really need his house, and Judge Lucky decided we really didn't need his house, and I decided we really didn't need his house, so his house is still there today. It's on the far end of the parking lot of what is now University of Shands, University of Florida Hospital. We also wrote the specifications for the Barnett Bank, their drive-in business on between State and Union, and it was interesting. That was kind of an interesting experience because I can't remember the fellow's name, Allen. I can't remember Allen's first name right now. He was president of the Barnett Bank, and he told me they needed that particular property because it had belonged to the Powell Plymouth, I believe, and it was their parking lot, a used car area, but they owned the whole block pretty much, and that's the size of the land they needed. I was told they couldn't buy in any of the other areas because Florida National Bank had the whole area checkerboarded. They'd have a lot somewhere that they owned in every block, and they couldn't get in there. But this property was clear, So we worked out an arrangement to write specifications. So basically, when we were finished, the only bidder that could come in for the property was a bank. And we priced the land so high, I knew Florida National Bank wouldn't buy it, and Barnett Bank bought it, and then the drive-in facility is there today. Very, very functioning facility. You can come in from Union or State and go right straight across. But very, very nice facility. Then from there, I went to, I can't remember where I left there, and then I went over to work with the First Guaranty Bank for a while. I worked over there for about 6 years in the trust department.
About what year was that you went with them?
I have no idea. I honestly don't know. I would say it was in the, I have a better idea if you give me a chance to think a second. I'd say it was probably in the 70s, early 70s. Probably in that time. I worked over there for a while, and the First Guaranty Bank had no investment department. I also have I have a law degree. I have a degree in accounting, a major in accounting, and a degree in finance. And I began to advise individuals on the placement of investments, and a few of them began to take the advice, and through that bank, I was managing several accounts for the bank. I was the bank's investment department. And from that springboard, I became a member of the Trust Investment Committee of the Florida Bankers Association. I was there for 3 years. Then I came back. I mean, I didn't go anywhere except to meetings. And I don't remember where we met, probably in Orlando, or Ocala maybe. But anyway, we, a couple of people, Frank T. Scott, for instance, he asked me, he said he'd been, his account had been managed by White Weld in New York, and also by another firm in Atlanta, and also by a firm here in Jacksonville. And he said I was giving him better advice than they were giving him, and he asked me if I would manage his account. I decided I would do it, and this was outside of the bank. And well, no, it was a combination. But then more and more individuals began to ask me to manage their account, and I realized that I'm reaching a point where I need to make a decision. If I'm going to do this independently, I need to get out of here, and I did. I left, and probably at the high point, which was probably several years later, it's nothing big, it's not important. I mean, you have to really have a concept of money, and this is not a big amount of money, but probably at one time I was managing maybe somewhere close to $150 million for different individuals, a number of people put together. I still have a few sizable accounts, but most of them have gone away because individuals have died, families have taken their money down, and people have moved out of town. And so, you know, attrition would bring that to pass, and there's nothing wrong with that. I need to really get out of the business. And Ricky has an assistant named Sandy.
Well, I would like to just say to you, Gunner, that West Virginia's loss was Jacksonville's gain.
Well,
and thank you for doing the interview with us.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Good day.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Martin.